All right, so what is the GARED project? It's a multi-pronged project which includes the upgrading of drainage facilities, putting up non-structural measures, and procuring equipment and public education to make Accra flood resilient. So far, they are dredging the Odor River. They are also trying to dredge the Koli Lagoon. They are trying to repair broken sections of the Abofu. Is that called Abofu drain? There's also part of that drain that goes through Nima near Paloma. They are trying to expand that. There's infrastructure upgrading at Alogboshi. Do you know Alogboshi?
Alogboshi. Where's that?
Hey, Oshai. Alogboshi is near Achimota.
Oh, right.
Alogboshi.
From Abofu, they are doing Alogboshi, Abofu, Alajo Circle.
Thank you. So, infrastructure upgrading at Akwiteman. You know Akwiteman, right?
Akwiteman, La Paz, New Boy Town.
Yes. And then they also sections of Nima. You know where the Decathlon is?
Yes.
There's this drain.
That's storm drain.
All of that feeds into the main Odor drain.
Right.
Now, they're also setting up what they call flood early warning systems. Apparently, there's something like that. And then they will also come up with local sanitation committees to support cleanup. I was quite concerned about lack of publicly known cleanup exercises. So apparently they've been organizing cleanups by the assemblies. But it's not national, it's local, it's district. The district thing is not flying that much. But they basically have been doing some. And then they've also been creating flood safe havens for the region. Apparently they've mapped out flood safe havens. Do you know any of them?
Flood safe havens.
So apparently there are places in Accra that when floods occur, people get flooded. And they are building safe havens.
Really?
Yeah, me too. That's the same clearance. I said, really? I didn't know.
I didn't know this.
Nobody knew this. So apparently they have that information.
Because I know they were doing some flood detentions to hold the excess flood water.
What I do know in relation to the safe havens, I remember about 3, 4, maybe 5 years ago, some places in Accra, I remember some schools in Mamprobi and other places, so they designated schools and churches, some schools and some churches as safe havens where people could go in times of flooding. But I don't know in terms of making that public or making that very known.
Because Bernard, typically when the rains are coming, NADMO will say move to higher grounds. So if GARED has safe havens, they should be referring to those safe havens and telling us where they are. But they usually will say move to higher grounds.
He actually even showed us a map of the safe havens.
Wow.
I think we showed it on the set when we did the show. So the flood safe havens as well. And then apparently they've been having many community engagements. So, and then they've been doing cleanup exercises as well.
Okay.
They've done 4 per MMDA.
Okay. Bernard, I hear some of these things and I'm conflicted.
Why are you conflicted?
Because on one hand, I don't know whether it's a good or bad thing that this is not out in the public. You get what I mean? Because some people might say that, okay, when you do some of these things or you embark on some of these initiatives or you do some of these things and you bring the media, it's almost as though you want to, how do I even say it? Almost
over market it and do PR.
Probably, yes.
Well, the impression I get is that the communities know this. So maybe the listeners can tell us if they know what is happening.
Fair
do you know,
question.
for example, have you taken part in any cleanup exercise in the past 6 months organized by your assembly? Do you know any flood safe haven? Have you taken part in any stakeholder engagement on flood resilience in the past 6 months? Send us a WhatsApp, let's know.
Yeah.
Have you seen your assembly do a cleanup? Have they invited you to a cleanup?
Yes.
Let's hear aspects of my interview, Dr. Anisaf. I spoke to him on the point of view yesterday. I'm just going to play a few excerpts this morning.
GARED is an acronym for the Greater Accra Resilient and Integrated Development Project. It was initiated following the June 3rd, 2015 floods. And on a personal level, if you recall, on that night, I was actually talking to you, telling you, giving you some advice on what to do. And incidentally, the whole city, including my own house, was flooding.
My house at Nana Krom was also flooded.
Yes. So, following on that, the government approached the World Bank for some support in a series of activities, including the damage assessment, including a study of the state of resilience of the metropolitan area, and then subsequently the preparation of a strategy to address it before we got to the point where we had to now formulate the project, prepare the project. And the project is set up to address principally flooding in the Odor Basin. Now, the Odor Basin is one of 9 river basins that serve the city, or they serve the regional, the Greater Accra region. Except that Odor Basin traverses the central spine of the city, where the most commercial, high-value buildings and artifacts are, as well as where populations are also most dense. And so, quite clearly, it had to be prioritized above other basins. So, in a conversation with the World Bank and other donors, the government was able to secure some funds to help us to aim for what they call a 1 in 10 flood protection. Now, if you were to take the what happened in 2015, where we had 131 millimeters of rain over 6 hours, that would be a 1 in 10 year flood incident.
Okay.
So the question was, if similar type of rain came down again, would the city be able to withstand it? Because the whole idea about resilience is being able to bounce back as quickly as possible. And so, based on the studies and all of what we did, it became clear that quite a number of interventions were critical to be able to develop that, and then subsequently use that as a springboard to enhance the flood protection or the resilience capacity of the city. So presently what GARED is doing is looking at the state of flooding within the Odor Basin exclusively, and then looking at all the causes of the floods and see how that we can address that. So it's principally drainage-led intervention, but understanding also that there's solid waste contributes to flooding because of people's habits of pouring waste into our gutters. It doesn't matter which type of waste gutter you pour the waste into, they'll end up in the larger storm drains because of the connectivities between the different types of drains. So we have to address one aspect also, which is the solid waste as well. Then we are also, based on the studies and the simulations that we did, it became clear that there were a number of communities that would still suffer flooding in spite of whatever interventions you did on the major drainage networks. And so those ones were also then isolated, and further studies proved that they lacked basic infrastructure. And there were 4 of them that, based on the envelope that was available, the budget that was available for the assignment, 4 of them were prioritized. These are more or less the brick and mortar projects, but we also have soft measures that
so let me take it one by one. The Odor Basin is number 1.
Yes.
Solid waste management number 2.
Yes.
And then basic infrastructure
for
selected communities, which whatever happens will get flooded.
Yeah.
Superb. Can you show me the Odor Basin? You said there are 9 river basins. I wish we had this to get people a sense of.
Sure.
It appears Odor is the most important when it comes to flooding in Accra.
Yes, if you show the map.
Yes. And where does Odor start from? Just walk us through some of that.
So Odor starts from the foothills of the Brim Mountains.
Serious?
Yes, that's where it starts.
So that's Eastern region?
Yes.
Wow.
And then it runs through Abokobi, Pantai, comes through Atomic Energy area. Then it flows all the way down, from transitions all the way down up to a part connects to the Dome, a little bit of Dome, and then Pillar 2.
Okay.
Dome Pillar 2. Then it meanders its way past Alogboshi. Now Alogboshi is very close to Guinness, yes. And then it goes straight past what do you call them? Abofun. It comes through Alajo, and then it comes through Circle, Odona.
Wow.
Enters the past Graphic Road, and enters the Korle. So the Odor actually empties into the Korle Lagoon, and then the Korle Lagoon empties into the sea.
How many assemblies has it gone through since it started its movement?
If you take the Odor, when we are talking basin, so it includes the tributaries, so the river and its tributaries, then it runs through 17 assemblies.
17 assemblies?
17 assemblies. And if you are familiar with Accra, this used to be, until decentralization led to smaller fragments of the city, this used to be the core Accra city.
Yes.
So you are starting from and then some parts of what used to be Gan Rural.
Yes.
So you are starting from the foothills of a breed that would take you from Gan East. Then you have
Bokobi.
So Gan East Assembly, you have Gan West Assembly, you have you have North,
Medina, coming through
Lampantanai. A little bit of it also is Adenta. The tip of one of the tips actually meanders through Adenta, connects through Labadi. There are so many.
And North is now of Fankor, by the way.
Yes.
So then you're coming all the way down
into the Ayawaso. So Ayawaso Central, Ayawaso East, Ayawaso West, Ayawaso North. And
so
then
you are talking Jowulu, you are talking Mamobi, you are talking
Nima, you are talking Adabraka, which is now Koleklote. Odona.
Then you enter
AMA, and then the Kole side, a bit of it is Ablikuma Central.
Wow.
Yes. So
what are you doing? Under the Odor component, what are you doing with Odor?
We're doing multiple things. So first is to understand what is the cause, and then you know what you are intervening in. One is that because we don't do frequent dredging, the sediments build up, and then they constrict the volume that is available for to convey the flow.
Wonderful.
So the dredging is one of the activities, and then also we identified a very critical part of it. Now, whatever the rain that comes down, the runoff sometimes exceeds the capacity. So you need to then decide that let's detain a bit of the runoff during the rain, so that what the existing capacity can take would be able to convey and then limit the risk of flooding. So that is leading us to the construction of detention ponds upstream. Then there are also a number of constrictions that have to be resolved. Some of it has to do with the configuration. So, for example, one of the key tributaries of the Odor actually runs from airports and then comes through CSIR, Opebia, CSIR, then connects at Kaukudi Junction, meanders through Nima. That's what now crosses the ring road at Paloma Hotel and enters Koleklote through Asalam Down.
So this thing they did near Decathlon, which is near Kaukudi, that drain is what carries that water to Ring Road.
Yes, it carries through Ring Road,
through
Asalam Down.
Okay,
exactly.
I see.
So, we have always known that Asalam Down floods.
Yes.
And it's because that's the source of the flooding. And actually the cause is at the end, the outfall, where after going through Asalam Down, it comes to where the previous Christian Methodist, Kojo Thompson Road, it goes underneath, so then it becomes an underground drain. It enters the Odor main channel at the pedestrian mall. Unfortunately, it enters at 90 degrees. So when the water levels in the main basin are rising, it blocks this from entry.
Which is why cycle floods a lot.
Exactly. It's one of the factors that contribute to it. So that is one of the things that we have to reconfigure the outfall. Number two, the engineers determined that even the size of the drain is too small for the kinds of for the volume of rain that is coming and the runoff that has to be taken care of. So it's about also expanding the drainage. So from Circle Nima Paloma Hotel all the way to Circle, we are doubling the volume to take more of the runoff so that the waters can recede quickly. That's the other thing. Another typical tributary is the Kanishi. I mean, when it rained on Monday, there were videos all over the place of. It's because the existing drain is small, it's silted up, and it's underground. And so we have to address that. There are two of them that we have to do on either side of the Kanishi Highway. So on the one side is from Accra Academy all the way to. It was supposed to go past the interchange and connect to the Odor at MTN. We're able to arrange with the contractor doing the interchange. So he's actually, because we didn't want to then go and later break up his work. So we had an arrangement with the contractor, and he actually built to specifications the necessary channel that would lead from Pamprum Junction. So all we are doing is we'll build it from Accra Academy and tie it at Pamprum Junction, where the one that the contractor has built is already in place. And then on the other side, we're starting from the Bank of Ghana quarters, and then we are running through Abosokai. We'll cut across, again, we're cutting across the ring road, this time west. Again, the contractor doing the interchange is constructing it. So once he ties it, we don't have to go and break it up again.
More on this interview when we come back after 8:05-ish. Dr. Ohinisafo spoke to me on the point of view yesterday. And I also had Kofi Kekeli, a manager of the Land Use and Spatial Planning Authority. I also had Mr. Morgan Akwa of Zoomlion. it was a big conversation, and I hope I asked most of the questions that needed to be asked. So in this first part, he was describing the Odor drain and the various things that needed to be done. Some parts had the walls. Is it wall? Storm drain.
So
what's it called?
Detention ponds.
No, like the concrete thing that is at the side of the drain. What's it called?
The embankment, or the culvert.
Yeah, whatever. They had broken down and needed to be fixed. So we're dealing with all of that, and I feel like we need to hear this to understand the nuances, the challenges, and all the things. So it was a good interview. Tuesday, Wednesday, we spoke on sanitation. Not happy with refuse uncollected. Some parts of Kaneshie, got angry with filthy gutters and everything else. Luckily, on the point of view yesterday, I got 3 very good people. I spoke to Dr. Ohene Safo, GARED project, over $200 million project. Nathan, did you know that COVID affected GARED? Because apparently some of the money that was supposed to go into GARED was spent on COVID. So it's delayed the project a bit. The infrastructure part is only 30% done. So it means they will not be ready for the rains. Be that as it may, they've done some really good things. I spoke to Dr. Ohene Safo. I really pushed them on behavioral change and that kind of thing in the second half of the interview. I'll speak to Zoomlion as well, because I think that to him, who much is given, much is expected. They are the largest waste management company. They win a lot of awards. If Accra is not clean, they have to take some responsibility. So I'll ask them to speak on that issue.
Because, Bernard, if you check the GARED website, sorry to cut in, it says that informal waste sector workers collect more than half of the waste generated in Accra.
That's very, very troubling. Here. Yeah, and yesterday I spoke to a Zoomlion gentleman asking him, they were saying that there's a last mile of waste collection where... So if you have a built-up area which is well developed, like East Legon or Cantonment, it's easy for a big truck of Zoomlion to go there.
True.
If you go to a place like, give me a place, like Russia.
Let's go Nima.
Like Russia.
Yeah, or Shukura.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult because you need the waste tricycles to enter those communities. Now, they are not standardized. So the point about having waste redistributed, we also don't know where they send the waste. Exactly. Now, the relation between them and the largest collector, Zoomlion, is also not clear. Zoomlion charges them for bringing the waste to them. Now, there are things that we have just one major landfill site for the southern part, and it's in the eastern region. So the company has to drive 100 kilometers to send the waste there. All right. So there's a lot of things we need to discuss here, but let me go back to Ohene Safo. I want to understand now. Let me give you a framework for understanding this interview. For the built environment, for spatial planning, and for infrastructure, there's always 3 E's to remember. There's the engineering, there's education, and there's enforcement. It's always easy to frame it like that. So a lot of the interview was spent on engineering, which is what he was describing. Later, we spoke about education, which is behavioral change. And then there's also enforcement, which is assemblies, making sure people do the right thing. So the interview was broken down into those 3 components. So let's go back to the engineering part, the Odor drain, the dredging, the desilting, the building of retention walls or retaining walls, and water retention ponds. All of those things in the first part. We spoke about education and awareness creation for behavioral change in the second part, and then also enforcement of rules as well. So here's Ohene Safo talking to me about the GARED project, $200 and something million, World Bank Government of Ghana.
The mosque at Abosokai, then
former ICGC area.
Exactly.
So you've spoken about the Odor, and you are now talking engineering.
Yes.
So
those are the engineering components.
Because I do know there are 3 components of a lot of these things: the engineering, education, enforcement. So in terms of engineering, what percentage have you done when it comes to Odor re-engineering?
So we have contracts already signed, contractors already on the ground. I forgot to also mention that there are some sections of the Odor that the existing channel collapsed. There are both section from Achimota all the way to the N1. You see that the sections are, the concrete sections have collapsed some time ago. So we are reconstructing and changing the profile because the profile limited the amount that could be conveyed. So we're changing from the trapezoidal to the rectangular.
So there's more water.
There's more water to take up. So
a lot of engineering works.
Yeah, that's just one component.
And that you haven't even started. You just signed contracts.
No, but contractors are on the ground actually.
Are they working though?
Yes, they are working. If you go to Abofin, the contractor is there. We have the contractor already signed. The relocation is taking place at the Asalam Down.
I'm asking this because the GARED project, I think it was approved in 2019.
Yeah.
We're in 2024.
Sure.
So what percentage of the engineering works on the Odor Basin have been done?
The dredging contract is ongoing. as well. So if you take all of that together, I would say that in terms of the key infrastructure works that we have to do on the basin itself, we're probably past 30%.
Yeah. Because don't forget, you spoke of dredging.
Yeah.
You spoke of retention ponds. Yeah. And then you spoke of more like building stronger redesign.
Yeah, redesign. The
so about 30%.
Yeah, about 30% is ongoing. Not completed, it's ongoing.
Isn't that a bit late? We are in May. This is 2019
there are
project.
extenuating circumstances. We could go into it, but just to say that, yes, some parts of it delayed. Partly there was a COVID shutdown right after, we started the work. Some of the funds had to be rerouted to support the COVID, which is actually something that was built into our project.
So 30%, which means that if the rains come as they have started, we will not be ready.
When you say we will not be ready,
as in when you picture what you want to do with GARED as far as the Odor redesign is concerned, we will not finish before the rains come. The rains are already upon us.
No. I mean, these are long-term contracts too. This is not 2 weeks.
When are we
6 months.
So when are we supposed to finish?
The contract periods for some of them are 18 months to 2 years. Depends on the.
So even 2026.
The scale is big scale construction. It's not small scale construction.
Can they work whilst it's raining?
There are some parts, yes, you can work, but there are some parts you cannot work. You have to wait. Some of it you can divert the flow and then do the work.
I was going to ask whether there were some temporary things that could be done.
Yes.
To allow, for example, the Korle side where a lot of the water goes through, the Odor side, sometimes there's a lot of sludge and silt.
Yeah.
Is there any sort of desilting going on in those areas?
Yeah, that's the dredging works. Yeah. That's the dredging works, which we have started. The covenant between government and World Bank in terms of the loan agreement requires that government pays compensation before you proceed. Unfortunately, we are all aware of the financial circumstance that we have. So we had to arrange with the bank to allow us use the proceeds of the loan, part of it to support the compensation.
Because the project cannot proceed.
Exactly.
Because government doesn't have money to pay the compensation. We are told that the project is a $200 million project.
Yes, it is.
One of the things we need to find out is if I divide the project into engineering, education, and enforcement, what percentage of the money is going to engineering?
The engineering, across all the three components, the engineering will be possibly around 75%.
Which is the most important. So a lot of this is design, infrastructure problems.
When you say most important,
in terms of the bottlenecks that will cause, because you're trying to remove the choke points for flooding.
Yeah.
So for a developing country, the infrastructure must be right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Although the behavior...
But you see, the other thing that we also have to all be, we have it clear in our minds is that with flooding, you can't stop flooding. You minimize the impacts.
Yes.
Because you don't control the volume of inundation. Number two, so then you have to look at your engineering to see what can my engineering take? And then subsequently, you then look at, beyond the engineering, what adaptation measures can I put in place in the event of a flood?
All right.
So that's the story, that's what we are following. We're looking at the engineering, and then beyond the engineering, when we get to the limits of what the engineering can do. Let me cite you an example.
Yeah.
So there's a city in the US that by the nature of their...
By the way, what is this? So this is
one of the ongoing works that we are doing in the community upgrading. This Aloboshi.
So you're building new channels.
It was an earth channel and
with no concrete.
Exactly.
Protection.
So we are now lining the channel to enable us to be able to hold more water.
So this Aloboshi.
Aloboshi, yeah.
Because if this is not there, all the silt will come with the water. It will choke easily, and the flooding will be worse.
Exactly. Yeah.
I see. So keep showing us whilst you talk. So you're talking about...
So I was just citing an example that in that city, the drainage capacities could take a 1 in 100 year flood. Over 3 successive years, they had more than the 1 in 100 year.
In 3 successive years.
In 3 successive years.
It means we have to even change the way we calculate this.
The engineering itself has limitations.
Yes.
It will address a lot of the challenge, but it is not the exclusive panacea to the problem.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, so that was we've not finished the interview. Just to give some context to the interview, we also spoke about cleanups, awareness creation, and the rest of it.
Yeah.
It's very interesting you said that 50% of the waste isn't collected by informal, because on the show yesterday it wasn't clear.
So on their website, this is GARED. If anyone goes to Greater Accra Resilient and Integrated Development Project's website, you will see informal waste sector workers collect more than half of the waste generated in Accra. This is a research study. So the story simply says, findings from a study commissioned by the Greater Accra Resilient and Integrated Development GARED project into solid waste management in low-income communities in Accra have revealed that the informal sector waste sector collectors collect 51% of waste in Greater Accra metropolitan area, Gamma.
So this means that this is 51% in low-income communities. Yes, so this is not 51% of all Greater Accra. So it's a very important distinction. Yes. So half of the waste in low-income communities is collected by informal waste collectors. Now, this is an important discussion because where do they dispose of this waste? You cannot have a proper waste disposal when the informal is not connected to the formal. And I think Ohene Safo explained what he calls the connections, the joints between the informal and the formal. There is also no standards. There's no waste segregation from producer. All these things came up in the second part of the interview. Let's hear more on this as we talk about sanitation, flood readiness, and flood resilience.
Under the GARED project, recognizing the interconnection between solid waste, poor solid waste, and flooding, we are working with assemblies and have been conducting periodic cleanups. So in this first quarter, all assemblies have, most of the assemblies we are working have done 4 cleanup exercises with support from the project. Like I think I mentioned that we bought equipment for the assemblies as well.
You bought equipment for the assemblies?
Yeah, compactor trucks and other equipment to support them. Because you see, the policy, the environmental health and sanitation policy requires that the assemblies must have the capacity to lift about 20% of the waste. This was
as assemblies?
As assemblies.
Not Zoomlion and Co.
You see,
20%.
So the collection is given to the private sector, but recognizing that the private sector is not performing all the time, the assemblies must be able to come in where there's an emergency to be able to lift and not say we are going to stick to the contract when the person is not performing.
And that one, they do it for free?
Well, no. I mean, the assembly will find a way of charging, but they are supposed to have that capacity to do that. So part of the equipment that we bought was supposed to support them to do that. So the assemblies are deploying these equipment in these cleanups that we've been doing. Like I said, this year, the 4 cleanups that we've done so far, they've even exceeded what researchers are telling us is the volume of waste that's being generated. We're exceeding it by far. So that's one of the things that we're doing. The other thing that we also do, the public sensitization part, is going community to community. We're also identifying key vocational groups and other stakeholders and then engaging them with our behavior change messaging. And then especially where we are doing multiple interventions in those, because some of it is also going to disrupt their lives. So you need to engage them, inform them ahead of time, do a lot of deep sensitization, and that's what we've been conducting over the period.
The project has, is for me in the media, 200 million seems like a lot of money.
Yeah.
I don't hear anything.
Which is a pity, because I mean we've done quite a bit.
Are you doing it in the local communities or through mediums?
We are doing both.
Really?
We are doing both. I mean, Bernard, maybe it escaped you, but you recall that we're doing a program on GTV.
This once a week?
Yeah, that's the once a week, and we've been doing it since September last year.
Okay.
Raising the issues so that people will know the causes and the solutions. We are not just talking problems. We're also talking solutions. So that's one of the things we're doing. We've gone to churches.
Really? So you do physical engagement?
We do a lot of
behavioral change campaigns?
We do a lot of that. Like I'm saying, we are now even escalating to the schools.
Wow.
We're escalating across the...
and these are, what are they called? What name do you have for it?
Well, we have to... So presently, we are proposing, we call it Sanitation and Climate Resilient Education Clubs, which would be SACRED. The acronym would be SACRED.
Sanitation and Climate Resilient
SACRED Clubs.
Wow.
Which speaks to how we need to look at sanitation and climate resilience. But we have to work with SHEP. They are in charge of the school sanitation within the Ministry of Education. So we are in conversations with them already. And so I'm not saying this is the actual name that has been decided upon, but that's what we are proposing, that would help to galvanize the children around these topical issues of solid waste collection.
I think the Minister for Works and Housing said to me that he wasn't happy with the pace of work under the GARED project, and he wanted it quickened.
Yeah.
Did you hear that?
Sure. We've had meetings with him. Like I'm saying, there were extenuating circumstances, and we could go into all of that. I mean, one part of it was part of the fund, $65 million had to be used for the COVID. It's yet to be refunded. We had consultants who were...
So some of the money for the project had to be used to solve COVID?
Yeah. So now it's going to be reimbursed, but we are presently...
By GOG?
No, through government's arrangement with the World Bank. It's a facility, it's called the Contingent Emergency Response Component that the World Bank instituted in its project. It realized that there are projects that are going on, and then an emergency happens, and the government says all these funds are tied up, so I cannot use it. And the government itself doesn't have resources to address the emergency. So that is a mechanism that the World Bank agrees with all governments. And GARED was the first to... So after we signed off, and then COVID happened, and government had to scramble looking for money.
So you need money to...
So that has to be reimbursed, the project, to allow us to continue.
I just wanted your quick thought around landfill, waste recycle. What trick are we missing as a country?
If you look at it from a systems perspective, you would see that their connections are poor. So it's weakest at the joints, where it has to
transfer from one to the other.
Yeah. So the GARED project is also going to construct a landfill because of the distance. So we are doing one at Gas South, where the bid documents are present with the bank. We are just waiting for approval to proceed. We're also doing the same waste transfer stations. Where the gap is the connection between those small aboboyas, as we call them, and then the big trucks. Now, because it is assembly that sets the fees, and the fees don't cover their operational costs, there's a certain reluctance from the formal sector providers as to where they pick. So there are places even in East Legon which is given out to these formal, and they don't collect everywhere.
They can't even collect money in East Legon.
Well, because the fee is set. But the fee is set by the assembly.
So that means that East Legon should be paying more than Abofu?
For equity purposes, that's what should happen. For equity
although
purposes.
It's more easier to collect East Legon than it is to collect Abofu.
Yes.
So the risk payment,
as you said, to whom much is given, much is required. If you want a proper society, that's what you are looking
for. So to remove that bottleneck, we must allow the companies to set the price, and let Parliament approve, instead of letting the Assembly set the price. Is that what we should do?
Well, I'm not looking at taking it to Parliament. But there has to be a forum at the Assembly level, or you could even take it at the regional level, where we look at operational costs vis-a-vis willingness to and ability to pay.
You agree?
That has not been solved, has not been sorted out. That is one of the critical things because if you only look at the ability to pay, and you overlook the operational costs. That's how come you have so many who are entering the formal.
So the business is not viable. So the private sector is not able to really support.
Well, in other countries, then they have a subsidy element that should cover the poor. Then you can actually charge the market rates for the rich to pay.
Can the GARED tackle this?
No. If you look at our design, one of the things that we are doing is that we're trying to help, particularly for the low-income people, the Aboboya people. First is to try to put them in a way that you can regulate them.
Wonderful.
So they are forming cooperatives. We have so far created 4 cooperatives across 4 assemblies. Adenta, Gais.
So now we know who they are.
So you know who they are. Then you can then assign them specific areas.
Wonderful.
Because we're also building waste transfer station, we can say, okay, within the zone, bring it to this waste. It shortens the haulage distance. So there's the incentive to do multiple cycles of collection in a day. Then they can earn more. Once they can earn more,
they can be more efficient.
So that was Dr. Ohene Safo. Caleb.
Bernard. Interesting conversations. Clearly, there's a lot that has gone on. For me, the contingent emergency response, I do not think the government should have touched that amount of money. If you look at the Asalam Down part of the Odor drain, you would notice that the retention walls have been broken. And personally, I've been working in the backgrounds, talking to friends in GARED about that particular project, because the other time we went to do About Town in Asalam Down, and we saw that because the retention walls have broken, a whole bedroom house have been demolished. Someone's toilet structure also gone, and the water went into a pensioner's house.
Wow.
Destroyed her stuff. It's been that bad. She dried her mattress outside. It got stolen. So personally, I've been trying to engage them to try to fix that part of the Asalam Down drain, and I always get that, we are speaking to the World Bank and the IMF or World Bank, one of them. Philip, please give me
World Bank.
World Bank, thank you. And so I feel that given how critical the sanitation sector is, yes, COVID was important, it needed all the attention, but all the resources we could have garnered
to be fair, let's put this way,
that, I didn't think
the way the funding is put, the little I understand about it, it's not like they give the money to government and then government went to use it for COVID. What happens is that the World Bank has a certain pool of money under a certain arrangement.
Right.
So for specific things, you can use it. So we know flooding is a big issue. So the GARED project identifies that. But when COVID came and the government needed resources, it's like a contingency fund or something. So they were able to use some to deal with some specific needs.
Right.
With the hope that they would pay it back when other kinds of funding comes in.
Okay.
But because the GOG money delayed, so what's happening is that, so let's make this very easy. The government has money from the World Bank to expand the drain, to build retaining walls, to change the shape and all of this. The part that means you have to compensate people, the GOG has to look for its own money to pay for it.
Okay.
Do you get it? So the World Bank money can go into the direct project, but then compensation is more political.
GOG must find money for that.
Now, the money for GOG to pay that may not be available. So the project people have sought for permission to use some of the World Bank money to do that, hoping the government will pay back. So the project doesn't suffer loss. So these things happen.
Yeah.
All right. If somebody gives you money to do a project, maybe there's part for advertisement, there's part for buying equipment and things. Based on the exigencies of the project, you can request to use one part for another with explanation, with a promise to pay back. These things happen. It's not it's not a problem.
Okay. So
the key thing though is that the work that is being done must happen in tandem with behavioral change. Because if you are going to, for example, Abofu, people have built close to the drain. You are going to build retaining walls. You have to find a way of letting people know upstream that you can't build here. You have to move some people and you have to relocate them. Whilst you are doing this, the assembly must enforce their own rules, which is the third E. So the education of the people by media, the enforcement of the rules by the assembly. If you don't have the three, engineering will be useful.
Fail.
And they say 75% of the money is going to engineering. Okay. Now that's a problem also because I think, that's not such a problem. If behavioral change doesn't have to be expensive, it just has to be well targeted. All right. Now, if engineering is 75% of your budget, it doesn't necessarily mean it's 75% of your problem. Now let me explain what I'm saying. Your budget may be 100 and you use 75 cedis to do engineering. But that doesn't mean engineering is 75% important. It just means engineering is more expensive than education.
Right.
Do you get me? So the problem in Ghana is not an engineering problem. The problem is a behavioral and enforcement problem. So even the enforcement and education is taking less than 25% of the budget.
It's equally important.
I think it's more important if you are attaching weight, because it's not everything that is weighted that you need money to do. Do you understand my point?
Completely.
So even though education and enforcement is more important, you don't need money to enforce necessarily like that.
True.
You just need a well-functioning assembly, which takes me to the second point of the design of the assemblies and what they can do. All right. Then the other thing is about the private sector. So you're saying people should collect refuse. The assembly sets the fee for boiler collection. Now that's not sustainable. Do you understand? Because the assembly has its, for example, the GARED project gave the assembly some equipment to do 25% of the dredging. The rest, and in fact, even waste collection, the rest has to be done by private companies. Now, if the assembly sets the price, it's not going to be economically viable because, for example, the amount people can pay in East Legon or Ashoman Estates is not the same amount they can pay at Pillar 2 or they will pay at
Abofu.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
So there has to be a way in which the companies can price within a reasonable regulatory framework. Do you get it? But in Ghana, we are always teetering between two extremes. The government sets everything or the private sector does anything they want. There has to be a middle ground. So we are not saying let private sector do anything they want. But government too cannot set price of boiler collection for companies. There is too bizarre.
Because I've seen one of the collection companies with some new trucks in town, and those must be very capital intensive. And if we do the enforcement well, we can even generate revenue from that side of things, Bernard. So while engineering is taking 75% of our budget and we are looking at spreading the rest of the budget through education and enforcement, if you were properly enforcing the sanitation bylaws, you would generate income from those who are breaking those bylaws. It's a part that I think that we need to put our efforts to. Quite frankly, I have been to the editors meeting GARED held. This was some years back.
2022, I think.
Yes, some time ago. And I also know that there's been some efforts put into a public education campaign. As for the show they talk about on GTV, to be sincere, I've not seen yet. I've not watched.
I've
that
never been
yet.
on the show once.
You've been there
It's hosted
before?
by Samuel Ajiman.
Okay.
It started September last year.
I've seen the flyer around.
He's done a bit, but look, we need a lot more.
A lot more needs to be done.
For me, you see, the leadership is also an issue. Look, a project like GARED needs a champion. Henry Cote was a champion.
Yeah.
We don't have a champion anymore. This is the thing. For anything, you see, in a society like Ghana, you need somebody to champion. When we started Galamsey, it was Peter Amewu. You need a champion. Trempon Boateng also took over. If leadership is critical.
Somebody must own it.
So assemblies have done 4 cleanups per quarter. We don't even know about it.
Yeah.
When you had what's the name, Henry Cote, he was leading, so he would come on air. Henry Cote would do like a media blitz that week to let everybody know we are doing cleanup. Everybody is aware.
Yeah.
We don't have that anymore. Okay, so that's the problem. The sanitation, the built environment sector needs leadership.
Yeah.
Ohene Safo is a technocrat. He can't go on air every day and be talking. He's doing his work. Okay, you need a leader to push it. I don't know whether maybe within the time allotted, this guy
the Works and Housing Minister.
I prefer Titus Glover.
Okay.
You know, somebody you need somebody
who understands the streets.
You need somebody who can
somebody who can invigorate.
Yeah, you know,
Titus
Glover he can wear Wellington
polos.
boots.
I mean, he's wearing polo shirts.
You need somebody who can drive the change, because Ghana, we need that.
Yeah.
We need that. One, the book long is too much. The English is too much. We need
the perfume English.
Yeah, we need you know. Anyway, so it's 8:36. Let's talk to Zoomlion. So far,
Right.
What's Sofa's name? So far, Lisa is on the phone. She's the head of Chief Copy Communication.
Yes.
Sophia, thanks for joining the program. Good morning.
Good morning, Bernard.
For the past 2 days, we've been unhappy. Our listeners have been unhappy with the state of general sanitation in the capital, and we are not sure if we'll be ready for the floods. Now, your company is the largest waste collection company in Ghana. Are you happy with the way Accra is looking?
Thank you very much, Bernard, for the opportunity. And I'm happy you've called me, because I know last Tuesday you kept mentioning my name. So I'm happy I'm here to at least respond to some of the things. Bernard, I don't think anybody should be happy the way things are. More especially from us at Zoomlion, just from the because there is so much that is going into waste management in this country. The volumes of investment that is going into waste management in this country, it's quite sad that anybody should find the level of waste sometimes we find around. And I must say with all confidence to you that it is.
So for an interview like this, we need a better line. So can I get Fred to call you back if I can get a landline, because the line is not working. So please, let's call you back, because I really want to hear everything you want to say. So we'll call Sophia back shortly. This is Citi Breakfast Show 8:38. We are trying to get to the bottom of the waste management conundrum.
Yes.
We are trying to understand if we are ready for flooding. The GARED project is a massive project. We spoke to Dr. Ohene Safo. Let's read some comments coming in this morning.
Good morning, CBS crew. Please don't pump out when interviewing our sanitation workers. It's about time we held them accountable, so they will also go harder on the citizenry. Both the leaders and the citizens need mental discipline. We are involved. DJ Nature. Good morning, Bernard and team. How could you go to the World Bank for dealing with sanitation issues? Why must people be educated on the need to be clean and healthy? Certainly, the constituents of the World Bank do not have sanitation issues. So the question we must ask ourselves is, how did the West get it right with sanitation? Let Ghana accept the fact that it's still okay.
All right, let me get back to Sophia. Sophia, so you were talking about we not being happy about the situation. Just wrap up your point.
All right. And it's all because there's so much we're doing. If you flip the streets right now, I'm sure you see our people working. Now we've even added an additional one where they clean up in the afternoon. But attitudes, behaviors, and enforcement from the part of law enforcement agencies has made our work very frustrating sometimes. And I'm happy to say that even though we are the biggest, we are not the only people. So there are other waste management institutions around us, and they will all tell you that these are the things that is happening. But there is so much we are doing. Bernard, I can tell you that today, no, we are not just collecting waste. And as we used to collect back in the days and send it to the landfills, that now we have only one dumping site in Accra. But we have built transfer stations across the places where we have Malam, Pantai, Ashaman, Achimota, and Teshi, where Aboboyas and our trucks are going to dump so that we don't litter the streets as they used to do. Today, we have built treatment plants across the nation. As I speak to you tomorrow, we are launching one in Ho. You know, we are trying to move waste management from just collection to sustainable waste solution provision. So it is sad that people will not appreciate this and also put in their effort. I know people are complaining. I mean, the last time your issue was about people who are saying that waste has not been picked from their homes and all that. Let me tell you, Bernard, some of them, there are genuine situations where maybe the track is broken down. Don't forget that from the past year till now, fuel prices have, gone up and operational costs has gone up. So sometimes the tracks break down and take a bit of time to repair and all that. But there's situations also where people have refused to pay. They have refused to pay. And yet expect the service quality that they think that should be given. So there are places, I'm sure there are some places, if you go there, they will tell you, look, but for Zoomlion, there are areas where people are leaving their old people who are providing their service there and coming to Zoomlion for them to come and support them.
All right, let's take it one by one. What is the structure of waste management in Accra? By that I mean, what role do the assemblies play? How many companies are involved? Who allocates the areas to the companies? And what percentage of the coverage area does your company cover? I don't know if the question is clear. So basically, we want to understand the big before we get into the details.
Okay, so waste management generally is the core mandate of assemblies, municipal districts and all assemblies. So they determine who takes care of what. Now, in Accra alone, at the last count, there were about 83 service providers. I could be corrected. There were about 83 service providers. So the assemblies determine who works where. You understand? Mm-hmm. Of course, because we are the biggest, we cover a lot of places. And we are the only ones, I think, that has coverage across the nation.
So in terms of Greater Accra, what percentage of the Greater Accra region or Accra Gamma would you say Zoomlion covers?
I'll be exaggerating if I can give you any figures right now.
But would it be more than 50%? More than 50%.
By all means, it should be more than 50%.
So you are the dominant service provider within.
That, there is no doubt about that. Yes, we are the dominant service provider in Accra.
So even though there are 83, your company has at least more than half.
Yes, I think so.
And how does the arrangement work? Do you determine? So, for example, if you are given an area like, say, Laboni, how does it work? Do you determine the price you charge each house, or is it the assembly that determines how much you charge? How does it work?
The assemblies determine the prices.
The assembly determines how much you charge per household?
Yes, please.
Now, do you have a preference as to what kind of community to choose? By that I mean, there are built-up areas like Laboni, cantonments, one man, one baller. There are also communities like maybe Osumami, where the houses are close together and your trucks cannot go there. Do you get allocated all kinds of residences, or there are specific residences that you prefer? Localities that you prefer?
You are giving all kinds. You are giving all sorts of. It's a mixture. You have the high end, you have the low end, you have the middle end. So it's a mixture of all the places.
So for communities that are not accessible by your trucks, how do you collect the refuse?
We have aboboyas also on the street, and some of them we work with these aboboya people. We also have our own. We actually introduced tricycles into this country. Zoomlion was the one that brought the first tricycle into this country and started working with tricycles. So we do have some tricycles in town that also go into some of those corners to pick the waste for us.
But there are some places where, even though you have jurisdiction, you may not have the tricycle to go there.
Oh, we do.
You do. So when your jurisdiction requires you to enter a small community, you're able to provide the truck, the tricycles.
We are able to do that. There are some places, though, some of these new places that are coming up, you see that there is only one household there. So it makes it a bit challenging to go for just that one household, spend all that and come back. But even that one, there is a way around that the team is able to still service them as and when it is required.
So it means we don't know the logic behind allocating communities. By that, I'm asking. So, for example, there's Adjingano, then there's Ashalibotwe Old Town, Ashalibotwe New Town, and there's maybe Maya Hot Medina. There are two different assemblies involved. So it's not like they will say to optimize Zoomlion's operations, let's give them Adjingano, let's give them Ashalibotwe Old Town and New Town, and let's give maybe Jakora Medina. Every assembly decides who they give. So when we map Zoomlion, you may not even have coterminous communities. Is that the way I should see this?
I think so. Let me give you a typical example. When I live at Bachona, right? My streets are numbered. Street 1, Street 2, Street 3, Street this. Now, when we started doing our free-bin thing back in the day, I decided to test the process and said, okay, I live on this street, so please bring me a bin. The guys came. They go to the, I think it was the 9th Street, and then they said, Madam, where are you? And I said, I'm on the 12th Street. And they said, sorry, our jurisdiction does not cover the 12th Street, so we can't bring you. We are at the 9th Street, but we are not allowed. So, for instance, where I live, it's another service provider that services that place. But it's the same road. But we Zoomlion services up to a certain street, and then another service provider takes it over from the other street. That is how the system is.
So your routes are not optimized by yourself. The assembly decides who gets what. So you have to then decide how you are going to navigate the route. Okay, now let's park that aside. Let's talk about disposal. You said we have one main land or refuse disposal site or landfill site for Accra.
Adepa, yes.
And where is it located?
It's at Adepa, around in some area.
So for the whole of Accra, we send our Boone.
There used to be one at Boone, but it became so over. I don't know how to put it. It's almost exploded in our face. So it's been capped now. It's been decommissioned.
Good. So I'm trying to get this point. So all the refuse in Accra legally collected is supposed to go to this place near Insawam.
Yes, but to make life easier for everyone, cut down travel costs and all that, especially for the aboboyas, tricycles that are doing so much in this waste collection business, we have built transfer stations. And I think at the moment we have about 5 or 6. We have Teshi, Achimota, Malam, Pantai, Pantai Abokobi, yes, and then we have Ashaman.
So
where it becomes like a stopgap.
All right. So when you collect refuse from say Teshi Nungwa area, you send it to the Teshi transfer site, yes, and then somebody moves from Teshi to the main landfill site in the eastern region. Yes. Same for Ashaiman, same for Abokobi, same for Malam.
Yes. Yes.
And Achimota. Okay. Now, can all waste management companies use your transfer site, or this is just for Zoomlion?
No. All of them can use it. I mean, not even the informal sector, the tricycles. They are not all ours. They are private tricycles that are coming. So all of them can come.
So who determines how much the other companies pay you when they bring their refuse to your transfer site?
I think that is also determined by, I don't know the relationship between us and the assemblies in terms of this transfer station disposal. That one I'm not too sure who determines that.
Well, that's a very important part of the discussion, because if the assembly is determining what the retailer pays, then they ought to also regulate how much you charge, because you are competing with other companies. So if I am Aloski Waste Collection, I don't have the resources you have, and I collect refuse from Teshi Greda Estates, I may have to drive all the way to Eastern Region with one truck, which is inefficient. So I have to bring it to your transfer site. But if you compete with me, you can decide to charge me an amount that I cannot pay, and therefore I'll go out of business. So I'm surprised you're saying you don't know who determines that. It's a very important part of the discussion. The amount you charge the companies to transfer to because if the system is to work, then all the collection companies must send their waste to your transfer site, and you then convey it to the final destination to make the whole system more efficient.
Yes. So, that is a private company. So I just checked. Actually, we determine how much is paid. But Bernard, let me assure you of one thing. This waste management thing cannot be a competition. It can only be a collaboration. And so as much as possible, we try to help each other. And so I don't think we can come up with any cost that would be so outrageous that others cannot pay. We are all trying to see how we can help each other. And that is why we all fall under Environmental Service Providers Association, so that the association coordinates our activities and make sure that we are helping each other. So there is nothing like going to charge any exorbitant price that makes it difficult for others to join, because we believe that it's a collaborative thing, not a competitive thing.
So do all the 82 service providers patronize? No, you are the 83rd, so I'm saying 82.
Yeah,
do the 82 patronize your transfer sites?
Some of them do, yes. Some of them do.
And the rest who don't, do you know how they dispose of their waste?
I'm sure they go to Adepa, or some of them are also starting to do some recycling of stores. So maybe they also send it to their site for recycling. What about the Aboboya? And there are other Elephant Dam sites that others go to.
Okay, fair enough. What about the small informal Aboboyas? Do they also bring their waste to your waste transfer site?
They do.
How much do you charge one tricycle per tipping?
One tricycle per tipping at the moment is 120 Ghana cedis.
120 Ghana cedis. What about a truck?
So for instance, Ashaman and Pantai is 120. Malam is quite new, so it's 80, and it is per ton. It's per
ton.
Yes.
What about a truck? If I bring a large truck and I tip at your transfer site, how much do I pay?
It has to be weighed, so it's not like a truck. We are paying per ton.
So whichever system you bring is 120 per ton. Okay, I get that. And this is cash. Do they pay cash?
Yes, please.
I see. Now what?
So let me tell you this. So at the moment, because Ashaman and Pantai have been there for a while, we have about 150 tricycles visiting, 150 to 170 tricycles visiting on a daily basis. Malam is quite new. It started only last month. So there we have about 50 on a daily basis. That is how fast or how much.
What about Teshi and Abokobi? What about Teshi?
Yeah, they are the old ones. So Abokobi is the same as the Pantai one.
What about Teshi?
Teshi is also on a daily basis. They are there. I mean, Teshi, I'm sure, will take more than Abokobi and Ashaman, because they have been there for quite some time.
Wonderful. What is the volume of waste you get to send per week or per month to in Sawan Place? Do you have that information as Zoomlion?
It's not that clear, because some of the people also send their waste to that place directly.
So we are
on the daily basis, daily or monthly basis, doing about 2,000 tons of waste recycling.
I actually was going to ask you, what percentage of your waste do you recycle versus what percentage do you dump finally?
Okay, so let me give you this breakdown. Over the years, after the research and others that we've done, we realized that about 60% of the waste collected, general waste collected, is organic. So that is what is treated into compost. Now, about 14% of that is also plastic. And at the moment, we are also trying to pelletize the plastics and send it to either pelletize it or bale it and send it outside because there is market for it outside, or we use it to redo other, bins and plastic chairs and buckets and stuff like that. So it's at the end of the day, the little that is left, the residual that goes back to residual landfill sites is just about 10 to 15%, if I'm not exaggerating.
You are telling me that less than 20% of the waste that you get in your transfer sites gets to the final landfill site, and that 80% of it is recycled. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
I don't believe that. That 80% of
what makes you say? Why don't you believe that?
We'll take it one by one. So so you need to prove it, because you're telling me that 80% of the waste, because don't forget, almost all the waste that is generated, we are told that 30% is collected, or 30% uncollected. So 70% of our waste is collected. Now that 70%, a lot of it goes through you, because you have the main transfer sites, and we have only one landfill site in Ghana, in Accra. You're telling me that 80% of the waste you get
in Accra,
yes, 80% of the waste, 80% of the waste you get is recycled.
Yes.
Now, what is the breakdown of the waste? 60% is organic, and then what is the rest of the material made of?
Okay, so we have over 60%, about 60 to 61% being organic, which is the best perishable things, the markets of food and everything. We have about 12 to 14% being plastic. We have another percentage being paper. I think it's about 6% or 4% being paper. We have a percentage being textile. We have metal, and now we are also we don't only just recycle. We also have a material recovery company where we try to recover as much as possible. So as I speak to you, all the canned things that people use, we recover that as well. These canned drains, tomato paste, whatever, all the canned things are being recovered as well. So all the plastics are also being recovered. All the paper is being recovered. Textiles, we are moving into that level where we are now collecting textiles also. So there is the organic, there is the plastic, there is the metals, there is the textiles, there is the paper, and then there is the other residuals that is difficult to know what to use it for now. You know,
good.
At the point we're even doing e-waste.
Wonderful. So there's I'm just getting this. So there's organic, there's plastic, there's paper, there's textile, and then there's metal.
Yes.
Good.
Yes, please.
And you're telling me that 80% of the refuse that you receive at your 5 transfer sites is recycled.
Yes. Or recovered. The materials are recovered.
Or what does recovery mean? What does recovery mean?
Pardon?
What does recovery mean?
Recovery means that after it is sorted, all the metals are put together and they are crushed or they are baled and sold out to people who need it for other things, because almost everything that is recovered is reusable. So the plastic is recovered, some are baled and sent outside, or some are pelletized and they are used by the plastic companies in Ghana, like our Universal Plastic Product Company, UPPR. They do plastic chairs, waste bins, they do tables, they do, buckets and bowls. So these pelletized plastics go back to them. So we try to recover as much as possible all the reusable material.
Fair enough. Thank you. So at which point and at what place is the waste segregated?
It's segregated. So the machines we have at the moment have what we call primary sorting and secondary sorting. So the machines are made in such a way that they are able to segregate the waste. And some of them have human intervention. So the machines are big enough. You see people there that are sorting out the ones that the machines are not able to pick. So, for instance, the machines have magnets in them. So they pick up the metal stuff by themselves. But the bigger materials, like people put in pillows, the buckets, and those things, human hands are used to pick that. But the machine there's a primary sorting by the machine, and then there's a secondary sorting.
So how many of these sorting sites do you have?
Pardon?
How many of these sorting waste separation places do you have?
Wherever we have an integrated recycling and compost plant, the machine that we are using there does the sorting. So you are talking of ACAP, KCAP, you are talking of all the regional integrated recycling plants. Yes.
So when the waste comes to the transfer site, some of it goes to the recycling and some of it goes to the final tipping point.
No, so when the waste comes to the transfer site, it is put together, and then in the night, our big trucks will take it to the big the recycling plants and material recovery companies.
What I'm trying to understand is, like, how do you determine what goes to ACAP and what goes to Insawam? How do you make that decision?
Everything goes to ACAP. So the residual is what
goes. Okay, so that's good. So it means that the chain is from the boiler collector to the transfer site to recycling company to final tipping point.
Exactly. So it's either goes to the recycling site or it goes to the new material recovery company called Namako.
This is great. I'm happy so much with the time you've given me to explain this. Wouldn't it be easier if people did segregation from home, where I have 3 bins, the brown for organic, the blue for plastic, and the green for other things, to make it easier for you to do this work?
That would have been the most excellent way of going about it. Honestly, that would have been the most excellent way of going about it. It makes the materials we recover cleaner, and it's easier to dispose of that. Or as in, if I say dispose of that, I mean like sell it, because then it's cleaner and neater and easier to use by anybody. But the reality is that at the moment, the trucks that we have is able to do collections of all. So unless we come up with a plan where, as it happens in the UK, there are days for picking the organic waste, and there are days for picking the plastic, So then it makes it easier that the same truck is able to pick from the same household maybe twice or thrice, depending on which material they are picking. At the moment, it's quite difficult to do that. Even getting people to get one bin is difficult. So what we could even do, people can start from their household, is to just put the plastic waste into a small carrier bag or the bigger carrier bag and segregate it. It would have been easier. But it's a campaign we are yet to start. We haven't started yet, but it is something we have to get to that point as a nation. And I think it will make life easier for all of us.
Do you have any numbers on how much compost ACAP has produced, say, in the past 1 year?
Oh, that's tight.
It would be nice. It would be nice because you see,
I don't have it up here.
Yes, you said 60% of the waste is organic, and you also say that about 60 to 70% of our waste is recycled, or even 80%. Yes. It would be nice to know the products produced from this recycling and how that's affecting.
We have compost.
Yes.
We have compost. That's what we have compost.
Yes, I'm saying I'm saying.
No,
I'm asking for I'm asking for the tonnage.
The tonnage
of compost.
Is it I think the daily basis. The machines does like 2,000 tons.
A day?
A day. Yes. But you see, it's a process. It does 2,000 tons per day, but it doesn't mean that once it goes through the composting cycle for the day, it means it's ready for use. So there are places, it goes through a certain process where it has to be, put somewhere else for the wind to blow through it. I'm sure there are some technical words like anaerobic and stuff like that to make sure that it decays and then it attains the quality that is fit for use in the market or in the.
And is there active demand for this compost?
So much demand. As I speak to you, We have even come up with a new one. It's called Compost Plus, which is a liquid one. Because in doing that, we realized that there is some liquid that is also coming, and through that, we've been able to produce liquid compost as well.
Wonderful. So, in a nutshell, what must be done to make waste collection more efficient? Because this whole conversation is about drainage, and the drains are filled with refuse not collected. Yes. So, plastics predominantly. If you have such a fantastic recycling program in Ghana, it means you have a demand for more plastics and more organic waste than you even get. So, how come only 70% of our waste is collected in Accra and the rest gets uncollected? What should be done to ensure that all the waste gets to the right place?
You see, one of the major things that is causing our waste to be wasted is because we haven't realized the value of waste. The fact that waste is not waste until it becomes waste. Waste is a resource. And when I know that if I have this resource, at a point we're even trying to come up with what you call buyback centers. And I'm happy to say that this is something we are doing in collaboration with the Church of Pentecost, and I think other churches are also joining, where people will put all their plastics together, and there's a particular day that you come up and sell the plastic to us. I don't have all that where it's happening yet to give you now, but then there is a particular time that people come to sell these plastics to us. If you know there is a value to the plastic that you're generating, then you put it together. You know, go and put it in the gutter. You know, so then we will buy it off you and give you some money, depending on the tonnage that you are bringing. Then it makes it easier for people to do that too. People need to appreciate the fact that nobody will come and do this for us, but we have to get the law enforcers who are on standby to make sure that those who are not doing the right thing are being brought to book. They are being brought to book, and we should find very creative ways of making sure that people are not. So if I say, Bernard, you have listed here, so pay 500 Ghana cedis. If you don't have it, Caleb might have it and give it to you. Or sometimes will say that, we can't allow Bernard to go like that, we'll pay you. But when we are forced to clean the place where you have listed for like 1 week, 2 weeks, a month, you realize that you yourself, you feel so embarrassed. Your guys will see you and say, is this what is happening to Bernard? And then nobody comes to say that, Bernard is my own brother. Bernard is my something. So please, let Bernard go. Once there is law enforcement and their education continues as we are doing, and for which we are very grateful, then some of these things will stop. Because I can tell you confidently that this is one company that almost every now and then, there is no year that we have at least not been on radio or TV for like 3 separate times talking about people keeping their environment clean, keep your environment clean. The rains are about to start, right? Or they have started, And you want people to know that, look, these are the times that there is flooding and all. What can you do to stop it from your end? But I have seen pictures, videos, and we even called people, the assembly, to come in, where people have lined their gutters with their waste, waiting for the rain to start so that the rain will carry it away. How does that work? Who comes up with such ideas? But people's attitude must change.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
The volumes of investment going into sustainable waste management in this country today is unmatched anywhere in Africa.
What's your response to those who sent comments over the past 2 days that their waste hasn't been collected since March? When they call the number, they don't get any proper excuse, any proper reason, and that the team is inefficient in collecting their refuse. I've read those messages to you before. I've even sent them to your team as well. What's your response to them?
Some of them are genuine, and we do apologize for those who genuinely have not been served, because for some, I'm sure maybe there was a technical problem. Maybe some of them, in fact, some of the areas, for instance, one of the areas that I checked, there is actually a whole WhatsApp platform that people give information to say that, we are not able to come at this time because of A, B, C, and D, and they have that kind of relationship. There are some people that have also not paid. They have not paid for a period of time, so they've been taken off. And we have introduced this new code, digital payment, to make sure that everybody, so that even if you are not home when we came, you'll be able to pay. There's *857# *857# that you can go there. Today, Zoomlion has an app that if you go to App Store on Android, you are able to get information and then reach out to us. We also have the call centers and others. We also have Express Pay. So we are making life as easy as possible. Going digital. Can you imagine Bola going digital, bro? But we are doing all this to make life easier for everybody. But if there is someone that feels that their case is, they can't get any way at all that they can contact, please do the *857# There are contacts there. Option 4, there is a number there that you can call.
All right. Finally, I'm told that to make the waste collection business more viable, there has to be a way in which the aboboyas are better regulated, and they also so that they have better standards, and then there also has to be a mechanism where companies can set their own price for the final consumer as against the assembly setting this price. Do you agree to these 2 points, and what do you think can be done?
I agree very much so with the fact that the aboboyas must be regulated, and I'm happy to announce to you that they are doing that. At the moment, they have their associations. So, for instance, some of our places, they are at the entrance with our people to make sure that the people are doing the right thing. Some even come to collect their dues from their members at the entrance. We are trying to put them together like that so that we can also have engagements with them, educate them and all that. You remember at the point we used to have these aboboyas on the motorways and others. It's going down, So that is something that I agree that it has to be enhanced so that we have more of the aboboyas coming into the group so that they can be well engaged in terms of what is expected of them and even for their own welfare, So it's something that I agree to. And then in terms of setting of the prices, I think it would be good for a stakeholder kind of joint conversation around the fixing of the prices, because if you leave it to the assemblies alone, there could be some considerations where they are thinking that if we make these people pay this, they might not take care of us, or they will hit us when it comes to elections or something. But the companies that are doing the business know how much goes into their operational costs and what will be realistic for them. So I think if there is a conversation between the two parties or other people involved in the waste management or waste collection and coming out with ideas on how the payments should be done, I think it will be helpful. In some jurisdictions, the waste collection is part of the property rate. So it's easier to just take it without the people feeling it. But we should, as a nation, begin to come up with creative ways of charging our people that will not look like these people are being favored as against others. Because I can tell you frankly, there are some areas that their cost of paying for waste is higher than others, depending on the area. There is the lower belt, there is the middle belt, and there is a high-end people. So it's structured in that manner. But it will be good to have a multidisciplinary or multifunctional conversation where everybody that has a role to play is part of the conversation.
All right.
So that whatever cost that we come out with is realistic and it's helpful to everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, Sophia Alisa, who is the head of corporate communications. Sophia Kujoji, forgive me. I keep making that mistake. Sophia Kujoji of Zoomlion.
Yes.
913. Thank you, Sophia. Good talking to you. Caleb.
Bernard, in 2020 when Zoomlion launched their recycling plants there, it's a massive stuff. The Kumasi compost and recycling plant. I remember that. We looked at the various machinery they had and the promise of it. And it's interesting to hear, by the way, that was a very comprehensive interview with Madame Sophia. And I am thinking about how we can incentivize people so that they can segregate their waste from source. That it's easier for people. The truck also then comes to take everything together.
She said it. If the people people will separate their waste.
Yeah.
And the people who come and collect will still mix it.
Then it doesn't make sense.
So you need to have specific trucks for specific kinds of
Yeah.
waste, and then they can then send it directly to the.
Precisely. So
If that's the plan, or if that's the ideal situation where trucks will, from what she's saying, almost run a rotation, right? So on, let's say on.
But that's
X
not the
day-
plan. That's just the ideal. They haven't planned that.
Okay.
What they have now is to send the waste to the transfer site, carry the material to the what do you call it, the recycling plant, and then they sort it there and send the rest of it.
Okay, I mean,
That's
if
what she
the
said.
sorting will be done and done well at the recycling plant or wherever, that is okay. Now, this other option that she proposed, I think it's a very, very good option. They should consider running rotations in terms of the types of waste and when the trucks show up. The challenge now will be how to communicate that to consumers and what it would mean for the cost line, or how much it will cost me if 2 trucks are coming to my house twice a week to pick up paper, glass, whatever. So let's just see. Let's go through some messages. Econ Tema says community 6 and 10 pay more than other communities. Econ Tema. Charles from Tema says, if in 2024 we still need to educate the public on the detrimental effects of poor sanitation, then our educational system has failed, and we should stop talking about access because they are not being taught anything. Wows. Daniel Otre, Gaist Hospital, he says, sanitation is the biggest issue in Accra and beyond. I live at Soto, and the sanitation truck comes to our area once a month.
Hey.
I tell them to by the time, and I tell you, by the time the truck comes around, the whole house will be smelling because the house has so many tenants. I think this is an issue that should be a worry to the entire country. How are the charges determined? They're asking what is wrong with the country. I think we've repeated that. The message says, I used the Zoomlion SMS bin request after Bernard's interview. I followed through with the text messages, but I never got a call back, not to talk of a bin.
They were here a few months ago.
Yes.
So far I listened to that. Your system has to work. More
so
comments.
People are requesting, not getting. Kofi in Legon says, I think Zoomlion has to rethink their charging system. We pay monthly, but a lot of the times they don't pick up the bins monthly. I prefer to pay in bulk ahead of time. But recently they failed to pick up pick up our bins for about 3 months. I had to let a tricycle pick it up as a cost or at a cost, but I had paid upfront already. I think they should find a way to link collection to payment on their app, so you only get charged when your bins have been collected.
That's Kofi from Legon.
Right.
All right.
Nick says, I want to inquire if there's any way we can report improper disposal of refuse by people. Says too much indiscipline.
Maybe the Gary
everywhere.
Police should have the hotline for you to call and chook. More comments.
Coffee from Pantine says, the fact is that even after segregating our waste from the truck boxes everything together while picking. I started it, but I stopped along the way.
I don't blame you.
Yeah. This one says there should be more education on waste segregation, both to the public and waste collectors. Look, I separate my plastics from the rest of the waste, but the waste collectors get angry when they pick it up and insist I put everything together.
Oh, Lord.
Nah, sense that.
Really sad.
Yep. This one says, I use Zoomlion service for my waste collection, and I might say that payment is made every month, which will then be after 4 collections. The problem is they mostly come twice a month, and they expect us to make the full payment covering the 4 collections. So in between their absence, we have to pay the aboboyers to collect waste, which is seen as cheating. So I think a point of people not making payments is as a result of the inconsistency with their collection, which also affects the days we need to send our bins outside or not already outside the compound. Park Kofi from Lakeside.
More comments?
I think if the waste companies have a problem charging, the assemblies could add the waste collection fees to property tax, just like the council tax in the UK. Then they find a way to pay the waste companies following collection. Another Ghanaian problem is that we don't encourage people to think. Thinking will bring the best out of people, and many will be proud to see their suggestions being put to plan. If waste management is a problem for Ghana in 2024, it says we are done for. This one says, Ojeko Onukpai, so plural.
It's greeting us.
Yeah. On this waste management system, we certainly had an indigenous way which worked. Organic was buried in our backyard gardens and small farms. Plastic use was reduced. and was reduced then, and it's time we considered banning it to save our existence. Metal was appropriately sent to the bone guys, so they stayed off our streets, stealing culverts, PNT, and fire hydrant covers. While we build the infrastructure to get to that of the developed countries, we must understand that sanitation and waste management are cultural issues, and it's social engineering that can fix it entirely.
I like that one.
A consumer says, I separate my plastic and drive to the collectors and give it to them for free. Zoomlion has a few trucks now and collect plastics for free.